What if, in the vast expanse of our solar system, amidst the familiar orbits of planets we've known for centuries, something entirely new appeared? Imagine waking up to headlines that defy everything we understand about the cosmos. A new planet, massive and shimmering, materializes between Mars and Jupiter without warning or explanation. No gradual approach, no detection by our most advanced telescopes, just suddenly there, as if it had always been. They named it Novus, the Latin word for new, because humanity struggled to comprehend this unprecedented phenomenon. Astronomers around the globe were baffled. The laws of physics, as we know them, do not permit such an occurrence. Questions flooded every mind. How could a planetary body of such magnitude simply appear overnight? What secrets did it hold? And most pressing of all, should we dare to explore it? The world was captivated. Was this a gift from the cosmos, a new frontier promising endless possibilities? Or was it something beyond our comprehension, something that challenged the very fabric of reality? This is the story of humanity's journey to Novus, a voyage fueled by curiosity and ambition, but shadowed by the unknown. A mission that sought answers but uncovered something we were never meant to find. The day Novus appeared will be forever etched in history. It began like any other, astronomers monitoring the skies, satellites orbiting peacefully, and space agencies continuing their relentless pursuit of exploration. Then came the alerts. One observatory after another reported an anomaly. A new celestial body had emerged between Mars and Jupiter. At first, disbelief. Equipment was recalibrated, systems were checked for malfunctions. But the data was consistent. Across continents, from the most prestigious observatories to amateur stargazers, the confirmations poured in. There it was, a planet, unmistakable in size and orbit, where none had been before. News networks scrambled to report this staggering development. Theories abounded. Some scientists suggested it might have been hidden behind cosmic dust or cloaked by an unknown phenomenon. Others entertained more extraordinary possibilities: time distortion, parallel universes intersecting, or even deliberate placement by an advanced intelligence. The general populace oscillated between awe and apprehension. Was Novus a harbinger of doom, or the next giant leap for mankind? Social media buzzed with speculation. Art and music were inspired by its mysterious beauty, and in every corner of the world, people gazed upward, wondering what this new neighbor meant for Earth. But as the world's attention fixated on Novus, a select group of astronomers noticed peculiarities. Their telescopes picked up anomalies on the planet's surface: flashes of light, irregular movements, patterns that didn't align with any known natural phenomena. Quiet whispers began among the scientific community. What was happening on Novus was not just unusual, it was unsettling. And as they focused their lenses and instruments more intently on Novus, what they observed defied all logic and stoked a deep-seated unease. Something on that planet was stirring, something that beckoned and warned in equal measure. The world's leading space agencies wasted no time. An unprecedented collaboration was proposed, resources pooled, minds united, all aimed at one goal: reaching Novus. They dubbed it the Artemis mission, symbolizing humanity's quest to explore new frontiers. Teams of scientists, engineers, and astronauts gathered to plan the expedition. Training commenced, spacecrafts were retrofitted and enhanced to manage the manned variables that Novus presented. The mission promised not just to unravel the mysteries of the new planet, but also to advance human knowledge in ways previously unimaginable. Yet, amidst the fervor, strange occurrences began. Satellites pointed at Novus malfunctioned inexplicably. State-of-the-art equipment that had functioned flawlessly now yielded distorted data or ceased operation altogether. Engineers worked tirelessly, but found no faults in the hardware/software. Unmanned probes were launched as preliminary scouts. Each disappeared from radar shortly after leaving Earth's atmosphere. Communication was lost, and no traces were found. Some argued for caution, suggesting the need to understand these anomalies before sending humans into potential danger. Others argued that the window of opportunity might be fleeting, that hesitation could mean losing the chance to unlock Novus's secrets. In press conferences, mission leaders maintained confident fronts, assuring the public that all precautions were being taken. Behind closed doors, however, concerns mounted. Reports surfaced of team members experiencing vivid dreams about Novus, dreams that felt more like memories than imaginings. Family and friends urged the astronauts to reconsider, to prioritize safety over discovery. But the allure of the unknown, the chance to be pioneers of a new era, was too strong. And so, with equal parts excitement and trepidation, the crew of the Artemis mission boarded their vessel. As Earth receded behind them, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were embarking on a journey from which there might be no return. The Artemis spacecraft, a marvel of modern engineering, glided through the darkness of space. Inside, the crew acclimated to the routine of space travel, monitoring instruments, conducting experiments, and preparing for their historic arrival at Novus. But it wasn't long before they noticed irregularities. Time itself seemed distorted. Clocks would display conflicting readings, and mission durations felt longer or shorter than they should. Conversations looped inexplicably, with crew members swearing they had the same exchanges multiple times. Communications with mission control grew sporadic. Messages arrived garbled or out of sequence. At times, they received transmissions that appeared to be from themselves, dated days in the future. Then came the sounds, faint at first, almost imperceptible whispers echoing through the ship's communication systems. Engineers attributed them to interference or feedback from the ship's electronics. But the whispers grew louder, morphing into indistinct voices speaking in languages none of them recognized. Late one night cycle, as the crew gathered for a meal, a series of knocks resonated through the hull. Structured and rhythmic, they resembled Morse code, but attempts to decipher them yielded no coherent message. A thorough inspection of the exterior revealed nothing that could have caused the sounds. Tension aboard the Artemis escalated. Sleep became restless, plagued by dreams of shadowy figures and endless labyrinths. Crew members reported seeing fleeting reflections of faces not their own when passing by polished surfaces. Despite these unnerving experiences, Novus drew closer, its presence filling the viewport a planet both beautiful and alien, inviting yet foreboding. And just as they prepared to enter Novus's orbit, the planet underwent a transformation. Land masses shifted, atmospheric colors changed, and a sense of dread settled over the crew. Novus was not just a destination, it was an enigma that was reshaping itself before their very eyes. The Artemis touched down on the surface of Novus with a gentle thud. For a moment, the crew sat in silence, absorbing the reality of their accomplishment. Through the viewport, they observed a landscape that defied expectations. Instead of barren rock or inhospitable terrain, they saw rolling hills covered in vegetation unlike any on Earth. Giant trees with luminescent leaves reached towards a sky painted with swirls of colors. The atmosphere readings showed a composition remarkably similar to Earth's unbreathable air, temperate climate. It seemed almost too perfect. Cautiously, they stepped out, each movement deliberate as their boots made contact with the ground. The soil was soft, yielding slightly under their weight. A gentle breeze carried unfamiliar yet soothing scents, a mixture of flora and something indescribably sweet. The crew couldn't help but feel a surge of optimism. Perhaps Novus was a new Eden, a chance for humanity to expand and thrive. They began collecting samples, documenting the surroundings, and marveling at the wonders around them. But as they ventured further from their landing site, instruments started giving conflicting data. Gravity measurements fluctuated inexplicably. Objects would feel heavier one moment and nearly weightless the next. Magnetic readings shifted erratically, rendering their navigation equipment unreliable. Communication devices picked up strange signals patterns that didn't match any known frequency or code. The electronic compass spun aimlessly, and maps auto-generated from satellite imagery now showed landscapes that didn't match their surroundings. The ground beneath them felt peculiar. At times it seemed to pulsate ever so slightly, as if the planet itself was alive and breathing. Heartbeats quickened as the crew tried to rationalize these anomalies. Then, amidst the alien foliage, they noticed something that caused them all to freeze. A series of imprints stretched across the soft earth, footprints unmistakably human. They were fresh, leading away from their position and disappearing into a dense grove of towering plants. Confusion turned to apprehension. No previous missions had made it this far. They were supposed to be the first humans on Novus. Questions swirled among them. Had another crew arrived without their knowledge? Was someone or something trying to lead them somewhere? As they stood at the edge of the unknown, staring at the footprints that defied all logic, the realization sank in. Novus held secrets that challenged everything they believed. With a mix of fear and determination, they faced the choice of whether to follow the path laid out before them or return to the safety of their vessel. Little did they know, turning back was no longer an option. Novus wasn't just another celestial body. It was a mosaic of colors and lights that danced across its surface like an eternal aurora. The planet radiated an ethereal glow, with hues blending seamlessly into one another, a cosmic masterpiece that both dazzled and disoriented the senses. As the crew of the Artemis ventured deeper into this enigmatic world, every step brought new marvels and mysteries. Towering crystalline formations jutted from the ground, refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. Rivers of liquid silver flowed gently, their surfaces mirroring the strange skies above. Dr. Elena Ramirez, the mission's botanist, was spellbound. She approached a cluster of luminescent plants that seemed to sway subtly, though there was no breeze. "Look at this," she whispered, reaching out. It's responding to me. She ran her fingers over a strange, luminescent plant. It felt warm, almost as if it recognized her touch. As she made contact, the plant's glow intensified, spreading to nearby flora in a ripple of light. The display was breathtaking, yet left an inexplicable knot of unease twisting in her stomach. This entire ecosystem is interconnected, Dr. Ramirez noted, her voice tinged with both awe and apprehension. It's as if the planet itself is alive. An unearthly silence enveloped them, broken only by the sound of their own quickening breaths. The usual ambient noises one might expect even on an alien world were absent. No rustling leaves, no distant animal calls. Just silence. Captain Marcus Hale scanned the surroundings, his instincts on high alert. Stay vigilant, everyone, he cautioned. Record everything, but don't touch anything unnecessary. The scent of the air was sweet, but carried an undertone of decay, like flowers blooming over a graveyard. It was a scent that lured you in, promising beauty, but hinting at something rotten beneath the surface. Lieutenant Sarah Thompson checked her equipment for the umpteenth time. Environmental readings are all over the place, she reported. Frustration evident. Gravity fluctuations, atmospheric inconsistencies, it doesn't make sense. Engineer Liam O'Connor frowned at his own device. It's like the planet's breaking the laws of physics. As they pressed on, the human footprints they discovered earlier became more numerous, crisscrossing paths and leading deeper into the alien terrain. Questions weighed heavily on their minds. Who could have left these? How did they get here? These prints, Malek Jones, the communication specialist, observed. They're recent. Whoever made them can't be far ahead. The crew followed the trail to the edge of a vast expanse of field where the ground itself was translucent, revealing complex networks of luminous veins pulsing rhythmically beneath their feet. It's like we're walking on glass over a city of lights, Dr. Ramirez marveled. But with each pulse, a faint vibration coursed through them, unsettling in its synchronicity with their own heartbeats. Is anyone else feeling that? Lieutenant Thompson asked, placing a hand over her chest. Before they could ponder further, a flicker of movement caught their attention. In the distance stood what appeared to be a structure, a towering monolith unlike anything they'd seen. Its surface was smooth, reflecting the surroundings imperfectly, warping images in ways that made them question their perception. Command, are you seeing this? Captain Hale spoke into his communicator, but only static responded. He turned to the team. Communications are down. Stay close and proceed with caution. As they approached the monolith, details became clearer yet more confounding. The surface writhed subtly, patterns emerging and dissolving like ripples on water. Symbols etched into the material glowed faintly, some resembling ancient Earth languages, others entirely foreign. Dr. Ramirez traced her gloved fingers over the carvings. These symbols, they evoke something. I can't explain it, but they feel familiar. An uneasy feeling settled over the crew. The silence grew heavier, pressing in on them. Then, a low hum resonated from the monolith, vibrating through the ground and into their bodies. We should step back, Captain Hale advised, but his voice felt distant. The hum intensified, and the surroundings began to warp. The vibrant colors of Novus shifted towards darker, muted tones. The sky, once a tapestry of swirling hues, now bled into shades of crimson and black. What's happening? Liam shouted over the rising noise. The ground beneath them shuddered, and from the base of the monolith, tendrils of shadow began to unfurl, reaching toward the crew. Retreat, Captain Hale ordered. They scrambled away, but the terrain had altered. Paths they'd taken moments before no longer existed. Landmarks had vanished. It was as if the planet was reconfiguring itself, trapping them. Breathless, they regrouped atop a ridge overlooking a now turbulent landscape. The flora they'd admired writhed unnaturally. The rivers of silver had darkened to a murky, churning sludge. The planet's reacting to us, Dr. Ramirez said, fear evident in her eyes, or maybe manipulating us. But the most terrifying discovery was yet to come, hidden beneath Novus's beguiling exterior. If you were standing on an alien world that defied all logic, would you press forward or turn back? Let me know in the comments below. Feeling the chill? Share this story with someone who loves unraveling cosmic mysteries. Determined to find answers and desperate for a way back to the Artemis, the crew pressed on. Every step was a struggle as Novus seemed to resist their movements, the air thickening, the gravity fluctuating. They stumbled upon a series of caverns, openings in the ground emitting a faint blue glow. With no other visible options in night, if such a concept existed on Novus approaching, they decided to seek shelter inside. The caverns were vast, their walls adorned with the same perplexing symbols as the monolith. Bioluminescent fungi illuminated their path, casting eerie shadows that danced with every flicker of light. "Stay alert," Captain Hale cautioned. "We don't know what we might encounter down here." As they ventured deeper, whispers began to encircle them, a cacophony of voices speaking in tongues both alien and heartbreakingly familiar. "Do you hear that?" Malik asked, shining his light into the darkness. "It's just the wind," Lieutenant Thompson suggested, though doubt edged her voice. But they all knew there was no wind. Dr. Ramirez stopped abruptly. "Listen." Among the incomprehensible murmurs, distinct words emerged: names, places, memories. Each crew member heard something different, something personal. Liam froze as he heard his sister's voice, a sister who had passed away years prior, calling his name tenderly. He spun around, half expecting to see her emerge from the shadows. "This is messing with our heads," Captain Hale said firmly. "We need to keep moving." But the cavern began to pulse with light, the walls undulating as if alive. The ground quaked, and passages behind them sealed shut. "It's guiding us," Dr. Ramirez realized. "But to where?" They entered a massive chamber, the ceiling stretching beyond the reach of their lights. At the center stood an object, a sphere floating above a pedestal, its surface swirling with images. Approaching cautiously, they observed scenes playing across the sphere's surface, memories from their own lives. Birthdays, milestones, regrets, moments they'd shared with no one. "How is this possible?" Lieutenant Thompson whispered, tears welling in her eyes as she watched a replay of her farewell to her ailing father before the mission. "It's feeding off us," Malik concluded. "Our thoughts, our emotions." Captain Hale reached out but stopped short of touching the sphere. Maybe this is the key to communicating with whatever controls Novus. Dr. Ramirez stepped forward. Or it's a trap. But either way, we need to understand. Before they could decide, the sphere emitted a blinding light. The crew shielded their eyes, and when the brilliance subsided, they found themselves in a different place entirely. They were back on Earth, standing in familiar locations. The scent of the ocean, the warmth of the sun, the sound of laughter surrounded them. "Is this real?" Liam wondered aloud, disbelief coloring his tone. Dr. Ramirez found herself in her childhood home, the aroma of her mother's cooking filling the air. Tears streamed down her face as she embraced the illusion. But fragments of Novus seeped into the edges of these visions, glitches in the facade. Shadows loomed where they shouldn't. Whispers echoed beneath the familiar sounds. "This isn't real," Captain Hale shouted, forcing himself to look away from the visage of his late wife. "Fight it." The illusion shattered like glass, fragments of the false reality falling away to reveal that they were still in the cavern. Breathing heavily, the crew regrouped. "It's trying to trap us," Lieutenant Thompson said, anger and fear battling within her. "Keep us here forever." "But why?" Malek demanded. "What does it want from us?" A rumbling filled the chamber, and a deep, resonant voice echoed in their minds, not through their ears, but directly into their thoughts. "Welcome," it intoned. "You've come far." The crew exchanged alarmed glances. "Who are you?" Captain Hale asked aloud. "We are Novus," the voice replied. "We are all, we are one." Dr. Ramirez stepped forward cautiously. "Why have you brought us here?" "To join, to become, to transcend." The walls began to ripple, and the ground vibrated with increasing intensity. "We need to get out of here," Liam urged. "Wait," Dr. Ramirez insisted. "We need to understand." But the vibrations grew violent. Cracks appeared in the cavern walls, and tendrils of darkness seeped through, reaching toward them. "Run," Captain Hale commanded. They sprinted back through the tunnels, the path somehow clear now, as if Novus was hurting them. Bursting out onto the surface, they found the landscape had transformed entirely. The Artemis was visible in the distance, but between them and their ship stretched a chasm that hadn't been there before. "It's like the planet's alive, and it's playing with us," Malik said, dread filling his voice. "We have to jump," Lieutenant Thompson declared. "It's too far," Liam protested. "We don't have a choice," Captain Hale decided. "On my mark." Summoning every ounce of courage, they leaped across the abyss, barely grasping the opposite ledge. Scrambling to safety, they raced toward the Artemis. Upon reaching the ship, they found it altered. The exterior pulsated with the same luminescence as Novus's flora. The gangway remained open, beckoning. "This doesn't feel right," Dr. Ramirez cautioned. "It's our only way off this planet," Captain Hale replied. "We have to take the risk." Inside, the ship's systems were functional, but interfaces displayed unfamiliar symbols intertwined with familiar ones. As they initiated the launch sequence, A message flashed across all screens. Integration commencing. "What's that supposed to mean?" Malik demanded. The ship lifted off, but instead of ascending into space, it hovered above the planet's surface. "We're not controlling it anymore," Lieutenant Thompson realized, her hands moving uselessly over the controls. Outside the viewports, the planet's surface shifted, rising toward them. Structures formed from the ground, reaching upward, intertwining with the ship's hull. "It's assimilating us," Dr. Ramirez exclaimed. "The Artemis is becoming part of Novus." Panic erupted. Alarms blared and systems overloaded. The crew fought desperately to override the controls, but it was futile. In a final act of defiance, Captain Hale accessed the ship's emergency protocols. "We can initiate a full system purge, reset everything. It might sever the connection. But it could also shut down life support," Liam warned. "Do we have another option?" Captain Hale challenged. "Do it," Dr. Ramirez agreed. "Better to take our chances." Activating the purge, the ship's systems went dark. For agonizing moments, they floated in silence and darkness, unsure if they just sealed their fate. Then, slowly, systems rebooted. Manual controls responded, and the Artemis began to ascend. Relief washed over them, but it was short-lived. A massive energy surge emanated from Novus, enveloping the ship in a shimmering field. "What now?" Malak shouted. The field constricted, and once again, the voice echoed in their minds. "You cannot leave. You are part of us now." The crew braced as the ship was pulled back toward the planet. Despair settled in. They had done everything they could. But then, an unexpected transmission cut through the interference of voice from Earth. "Artemis, do you copy?" "This is Captain Hale," he responded urgently. "We need immediate extraction." "Hold on," the voice replied. "We're initiating remote tether." A beam of energy lashed out from the depths of space, connecting with the Artemis. The ship lurched, caught between opposing forces. "Who is that?" Lieutenant Thompson asked, hope flickering. "This is Mission Control," the voice assured. "We're bringing you home." Leading to the next segment cliffhanger. As the tug-of-war escalated, the Artemis's structure groaned under the strain. Systems flickered erratically, and the ship threatened to tear apart. And then, with a blinding flash, everything went white. When their vision cleared, the crew found themselves in Earth's orbit, the familiar blue glow of their home planet below. Cheers erupted, but Captain Hale remained cautious. "Mission Control, we made it, preparing for re-entry." But the voice that responded wasn't from Mission Control. "Welcome back," it said, a chilling echo of the voice from Novus. "You have brought us home." As the Artemis hung in orbit around Earth, the crew grappled with the unsettling message that had come through their comms. The familiar sight of their home planet should have been a balm to their frayed nerves, but something was off. The continents looked distorted, the coloration slightly awry. "This doesn't look right," Engineer Liam O'Connor murmured, peering intently at the view screen. Captain Marcus Hale tried to steady his voice. "Run a full spectral analysis. Let's confirm our position." Dr. Aisha Nguyen was already typing furiously at her console. "According to our instruments, this is Earth, but the readings are inconsistent." Malak Jones scanned incoming frequencies. Communication channels are silent. There's no chatter, no signals, nothing. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Then, an alert sounded. Captain Lieutenant Sarah Thompson called out, "I'm detecting structures on the surface, massive complexes where none should exist." "Put it on the main screen," Hale ordered. The image that appeared sent a chill through them all. Sprawling cities, unlike any on Earth, filled with towering spires and interconnected networks, spread out across vast expanses. "That's impossible," Liam whispered. "How could this be?" "We're going down there," Hale decided. "We need answers." Reluctantly, the crew prepared for descent. The Artemis landed smoothly on an open plain near one of the colossal structures. Exiting the ship, they were met with an eerie stillness. The air was breathable, yet carried an unfamiliar scent, a mixture of ozone and something metallic. The landscape was both alien and hauntingly familiar. Vegetation resembled Earth's but twisted into unnatural forms. They approached the nearest building, its architecture defying conventional design. Walls curved in impossible angles, and materials shimmered with a translucent glow. "These structures are made of elements not found on the periodic table," Dr. Nine observed, her tricorder humming. As they ventured inside, the interior spaces warped perception. Corridors stretched endlessly, yet when they turned to look back, the entrance was just steps behind them. This place is playing tricks on us, Mullock said, his voice echoing strangely. The walls were inscribed with symbols that seemed to shift and change when not directly observed. Dr. Nyan attempted to capture them on her device, but the images distorted upon review. Suddenly, they stumbled upon remnants that stopped them cold equipment bearing insignias from Earth's space agencies, photographs of people in archaic spacesuits, journals filled with notes in languages both known and unknown. "How is this here?" Lieutenant Thompson asked, eyes wide with disbelief. "Novus only appeared weeks ago. How could humans have been here long enough to build all this?" They found a central chamber filled with stasis pods. Inside, some of them lay figures in advanced states of decay, undeniably human yet dressed in entire centuries ahead of their own technology. Liam ran a trembling hand through his hair. "This doesn't make any sense. Are we in the future? The past?" Captain Hale clenched his fists. Or perhaps time doesn't apply here as we understand it. Questions swirled chaotically. Is Novus a wormhole? A nexus point? Dr. Nyan speculated. But a more unsettling possibility settled in their minds. What if Novus was somehow absorbing fragments of different times, places, and even realities? As they delved deeper, the atmosphere grew heavy. The structure seemed to respond to their presence, the walls pulsing gently. The symbols intensified in luminosity, casting eerie shadows. Communications crackled to life. "Artemis crew, do you copy?" The voice was static-laden, but unmistakably from Earth. Captain Hale grabbed his communicator. "This is Captain Hale. We read you, requesting immediate assistance." "Help is on the way," the voice assured. Relief washed over them, but Dr. Nyan's brows knitted in concern. "Wait," she said slowly. "Something's not right." The ground beneath them began to tremble. The pulsating walls accelerated their rhythm, aligning with the increasing tempo of their heartbeats. "We need to get back to the ship," Hale commanded. They raced back through the labyrinthine corridors, but the path seemed altered. The structure was reconfiguring itself, leading them astray. Finally, bursting out of the building, they beheld a sky transformed. Where stars should have been, there was a void and encroaching darkness swallowing the heavens. The Artemis loomed ahead, but as they approached, its lights flickered and dimmed. Onboard systems failed one by one. "The ship's draining power," Liam shouted, frantically pressing controls on his wrist pad. "Everything's being siphoned away." A low, resonant sound permeated the air, a deep thrum that resonated within their bones. It grew louder, a crescendo of pulsating beats mimicking a colossal heartbeat. Dr. Nyan's eyes widened with realization. "Novus isn't a planet," she breathed. "It's a sentient entity, a cosmic being." Captain Hale's face hardened. "A predator," he concluded, "luring us and others for consumption." Shadows stretched across the landscape, tendrils of darkness creeping towards them. The structures they'd explored began to dissolve into the ground, revealing themselves as mere projections. "Run," Hale ordered. They sprinted towards the Artemis, the ship their only hope. But as they reached it, the entrance sealed shut. "Override the lock," Lieutenant Thompson urged. Liam's hands shook as he attempted manual commands, but systems were unresponsive. "I can't. It's not responding to any input." The pulsating sound intensified, and the very ground seemed to pulse in tandem. The crew huddled together, backs against the cool metal of their ship. Then, impossibly, the communicator crackled again. "Artemis crew, this is Earth Command. We're initiating emergency extraction." A beam of light pierced the darkness, enveloping them. For a moment, hope ignited in their hearts. But as the beam lifted them, the voice returned not from their communicator, but inside their minds. "Welcome home," it whispered, the tone imbued with a chilling familiarity. They were suspended in the air, caught between Novus and the illusion of salvation. The light that surrounded them twisted, morphing into tendrils that began to envelop their bodies. "It's a trick," Dr. Nyan screamed. "It's using our own memories against us." Captain Hale struggled helplessly. "Fight it. Don't let it in." One by one, the stars in the sky blinked out, consumed by the encroaching void. The realization sank in they were never leaving. As darkness closed in from all directions, the crew understood the horrifying truth. Novus had ensnared them completely, and there was no escape from its relentless grasp. Isolated on a world that defied comprehension, the crew felt the weight of their solitude. Millions of miles from home, true loneliness set in when their messages went unanswered. The usual comfort of hearing Mission Control's steady voice was replaced with silence that pressed upon their souls. Dr. Nyan found herself staring at a photograph of her young son, Caden. Except her heart skipped a beat, the photo was fading, the image losing clarity. No, 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 she muttered frantically, trying to preserve it. This can't be happening. Liam woke in a cold sweat, his mind clouded. He looked around his quarters, a fleeting panic gripping him. Where am I? He whispered. Memories slipped like sand through his fingers. Faces blurred, names eluded him. There was something he was supposed to remember, someone important, but the harder he tried, the more it evaded him. Captain Marcus Hale sat alone on the bridge, the weight of command heavier than ever. Images of his past haunted him, the faces of crewmates he'd lost on a previous mission, the agonizing decision that left him scarred. Not again, he vowed quietly. I won't lose them. Personal items began disappearing from the ship, erasing traces of their lives. Malak couldn't find his grandmother's locket, the one he'd worn since she gave it to him as a child. It was right here, he insisted, tearing apart his bunk area. It can't just vanish. Crew members started seeing apparitions of their loved ones on Novus. Dr. Nyan was on a routine check when she heard a child's laughter echoing down the corridor. She followed the sound, heart pounding. Turning a corner, she saw Caden standing there, his small figure out of place in the sterile environment of the spacecraft. Mommy, he called, smiling brightly. Tears welled in her eyes. Caden? How? He held out his hand. Come play with me. She took a hesitant step forward before reality snapped back. The corridor was empty. Her son wasn't there. She collapsed against the wall, sobbing. It's in our minds, she realized. It's using our memories against us. The fear of a place where the laws of physics don't apply gnawed at them. Lieutenant Thompson observed as objects left floating in the cabin moved in unnatural trajectories, defying gravity and inertia. This place, it's wrong, she whispered to herself. With each passing hour, the crew felt more disconnected from reality. Malak's attempts to reach Earth were met with silence or distorted echoes of their own voices. He confided in Liam, I don't even know if Earth exists anymore. What if it's just us now? Names slipped from their minds. Faces and photographs became unrecognizable. Captain Hale gathered the crew. We need to hold on to who we are, he urged. Share your memories. Tell your stories. We can't let it take that from us. They spent hours recounting their lives, clinging to shared humanity. But as they spoke, details faded. Birthdays, family traditions, the taste of favorite foods all eroded. Dr. Nyan clutched her head. I can't remember what my son's laugh sounds like, she cried. I can't see his face anymore. Determined not to succumb, Captain Hale devised a plan. If Novus feeds on us, then maybe we can starve it, he proposed. We shut down everything non-essential, minimize our activity. But won't that hasten our own end? Liam questioned. Better that than becoming fuel for this, entity Hale asserted. They initiated the shutdown. The ship's lights dimmed, and life support ran on minimal power. The crew sat together in the dim glow, a silent vigil against the encroaching darkness. But Novus was relentless. The ship began to shudder, subtle at first, then more violently. It's not working, Malek shouted over the noise. It's retaliating. Figures appeared throughout the ship, not just loved ones, but versions of themselves, distorted and unsettling. Liam confronted a shadowy doppelganger, its eyes voids of darkness. You're not me, he stated firmly, backing away. The figure smiled eerily. But soon I will be all that's left. With no options left, Captain Hale made a final decision. We destroy the ship, he declared. It's the only way to stop this. The crew recoiled. Are you suggesting we? Lieutenant Thompson began. Yes, Hale confirmed grimly. We take ourselves out of the equation. Dr. Nyan nodded slowly. It might be the only way to deny Novus what it wants. They set about overloading the ship's reactor, working methodically despite the chaos around them. As they initiated the sequence, Novus's influence intensified. The walls pulsated, and the voices became a cacophony. Time seemed to distort a minute stretched into eternity. In their final moments, they gathered together. I'm sorry I led you here, Hale said, his voice heavy with regret. You did what any of us would have, Dr. Nyan replied softly. They braced themselves as the reactor reached critical mass. But before the explosion could occur, everything froze. The noise ceased, the vibrations stopped, and a profound silence enveloped them. A figure materialized before them, a humanoid form composed of shifting light and shadow. "You cannot escape," it spoke without moving its lips. "Why are you doing this?" Dr. Nyan demanded. "To become whole," it replied. "Your experiences, your identities, they complete us." "We won't let you take them," Captain Hale asserted. The figure tilted its head. "You have no choice." Novus didn't consume physical bodies, it absorbed consciousness, assimilating the very essence of those it ensnared. As the realization hit them, memories flooded back, not just theirs, but countless others from different times and worlds. An overwhelming surge of emotions and experiences threatened to drown them. "We are Legion," the entity whispered. "Join us." Fighting against the influx, they struggled to hold on to themselves. "We have to resist," Hale urged, though his voice felt distant. But one by one, they felt their identities slipping away, merging into the vast collective that was Novus. The Artemis stood silent on the surface of Novus, its crew nowhere to be seen. From space, the planet shimmered, a beacon in the darkness. And then, as inexplicably as it had appeared, Novus vanished, leaving no trace in the cosmos. In the end, Novus was not a destination, but a convergence, a place where realities intertwined and individuality ceased. The crew of the Artemis became part of something incomprehensible, their stories woven into the fabric of an eternal enigma. Perhaps somewhere in the depths of space, Novus will emerge again, a lure for the curious, a trap for the unwary. And maybe, just maybe, the echoes of those who came before will try to warn those who come after, whispering across the void. We should have never gone. As darkness swallowed the crew of the Artemis, a profound silence engulfed them. Time lost all meaning, a suspended state where moments felt like eternity. Then, gradually, consciousness stirred. Captain Marcus Hale awoke to the soft hum of the ship's engines. The familiar glow of the control panels bathed the cockpit in a comforting light. He blinked rapidly, disoriented. "Systems check," he managed, his voice hoarse. Lieutenant Sarah Thompson responded promptly, though an undercurrent of confusion laced her tone. "All systems operational, Captain. Navigational charts show we're on course back to Earth." Dr. Aisha Nguyen rubbed her temples. But how? Memories of Novus flooded her mind, the entity, the all-consuming darkness. "What's the last thing you remember?" Engineer Liam O'Connor glanced around, unease creeping in. "We were on Novus, weren't we? I remember trying to escape." Malek Jones, the communications specialist, interjected. "I'm getting signals from Mission Control. They're welcoming us home." Captain Hale exchanged looks with his crew. Their last vivid memory was of being overwhelmed by Novus. Yet here they were, mere hours from Earth. "Run a full diagnostic," he commanded. "I want explanations." As they delved into the ship's data logs, discrepancies emerged. Logs abruptly ended during their final moments on Novus, only to resume with standard flight recordings. It was as if a segment of time had been erased. "Maybe we blacked out," Sarah suggested, though doubt clouded her eyes. Dr. Nyan nodded slowly. "But how did the ship launch? Who set the course?" A tense silence fell over them. Then, in an attempt to shift the mood, Malik smiled. "Well, whatever happened, let's be grateful we're on our way home." For a while, the crew allowed themselves to relax. They shared stories, laughed at old jokes, and the camaraderie they always cherished resurfaced. But intermittent glitches plagued the ship. Lights flickered, and subtle whispers echoed through the corridors, just faint enough to be dismissed but persistent enough to unsettle. Liam approached Captain Hale privately. "Sir, I can't shake the feeling that something's off. The ship's AI is behaving differently." Hale placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We're all on edge after what we've been through. Once we're back on Earth, we'll get answers." As Earth grew larger on their view screens, anticipation mingled with an inexplicable dread. The Artemis touched down amid fanfare. Crowds cheered, banners waved, and cameras flashed. The crew descended the gangway to a hero's welcome, smiles plastered on their faces. Families rushed forward, embracing their loved ones. Tears of joy flowed freely. Yet, beneath the surface celebrations, subtle wrongness lingered. Captain Hale hugged his sister, but his gaze drifted skyward. "It's good to be home," he murmured, though his tone lacked warmth. Reporters swarmed, thrusting microphones forward. "Captain Hale, tell us about Novus. What did you find?" He offered a cryptic smile. Novus was enlightening. A new beginning. Dr. Nyan stood apart, observing. Her eyes reflected the swirling colors of Novus, unnoticed by those around her. Children approached her with flowers, and she accepted them with a distant nod. Back at Mission Control, scientists reviewed the Artemis's data. These readings are extraordinary, one remarked. But some of this technology, the ship's systems have advanced beyond our current capabilities. How is that possible? Another queried. They didn't have access to this on departure. In the following days, the crew underwent debriefings. Their answers were vague, their memories selectively detailed. Psychological evaluations noted their calm, almost detached demeanors. Lieutenant Thompson visited her favorite cafe, but seemed perplexed by the menu, as if unfamiliar with her own preferences. Malek wandered his hometown, but didn't recognize longtime neighbors. Whispers spread among those who interacted with them. They've changed, people said, like they're not really here. Families noticed too. Dr. Nyan's son, Caden, looked into his mother's eyes and hesitated. "Mom, your eyes, they're different." She smiled serenely. "Everything changes, sweetheart." One evening, Captain Hale stood before a live global broadcast. "Our journey to Novus taught us that some secrets are meant to be shared," he declared. Novus was never a destination, it was a beginning. They sought answers in the darkness of space, but some secrets are meant to remain hidden. As the broadcast ended, screens across the world flickered. For a brief moment, the swirling colors of Novus filled every display. Those watching felt a strange connection, a pull towards something greater.
If you thought this journey was harrowing, wait until you hear about the signal from beyond our galaxy that we should have ignored. Stay tuned for more tales that challenge the boundaries of reality.